Hello, hello guys. See if we can get some good games today. Pretty decent game overall in terms of players.
Interesting trinkets.
Wouldn't have expected that this early, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to build, honestly. I'll probably just start with Golden Blade. Protection on armor is always a bit weird, especially when it comes to magical protection. But I'll probably just have to go for like a Kusari or something like that. Go with some heavy attack speed. It should work here at least. Crazy schedule you have today, what do you mean? I'm just gonna stream for a bit, and we have scrims later, right? I forgot. Did we ever figure anything out about that? kind of forgot to look at the chat if we have anything.
On my way. Attack.
Damn it.
Unfortunate.
I'm playing this matchup kind of bad. I should probably be more aggressive early on, especially with my build.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Ultimate down.
He didn't heal a whole lot on the wave. That was kind of lucky for me. I don't think I could have killed him otherwise. Let's see. The jungler might have been able to do his blue by now, but let's see if I can still snatch it. Oh man, that is tragic. That's absolutely tragic. Not enough damage.
Enemy missing.
An ally has been slain.
I'll just back before I overstay my welcome here. No scrim, alright. Gotcha. I was debating even if I wanted to scrim today or stream. Just because yeah. Maybe also had to play later. Man, I'm not hitting my 2 today. Damn.
Enemy missing.
have to do something about Hades at this point. I don't know what's wrong with Hades, but he feels... I don't know. I don't know what they could actually buff on to make him feel good.
Towers under attack.
He just feels bad in almost every way. But it's also because he's essentially still a mage, even though he doesn't like play like a mage. He's still one of the weirder gods in the game.
To the mirror.
Before me.
I'll be ready. Stand together.
My god.
Double kill.
Any amount of light can make one work.
I don't know what happened there. I couldn't press any of my abilities. I guess it's because he silenced us. Yeah, he used the ability to silence. That was really good, because I feel like I should have died. I couldn't use anything. And it confused the shit out of me too. Because I thought I used it. I'm not used to people actually using the silence in the Hades ult. I would have expected the 3 there.
Seen of me.
To the mirror.
Yeah, Amai's ult just kind of broken. There's only like a select few gods at the moment that Hades is kind of good into. Well, good is a strong word here, but he's a very situational pick that I think you definitely can make work in some matchups, but Arma just isn't one of them. Arma is just, yeah, borderline broken. I need to grab that one item. What is it called again? I'm actually just gonna wait with this.
Some
This one.
I'm building. Thanks.
yes.
Because then he can't dash in front of me. I'm just gonna slow him.
Feel my strength. Enemy missing left.
Enemy missing.
An ally has been slain.
Take it, damn it. There we go. There's a weird range thing, because the prompt will pop up, but you're still not in range for the interact sometimes.
Greetings.
Enemy missing left.
See if I can rotate here. Look for something desperate.
Your right tower is under attack.
Attack the Gold Fury.
Your team destroyed the Gold Fury. Your left tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
Should be dead to the new hold.
An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Alright, I'll back off here.
An ally has been slain.
Some other time.
I'll chase this.
Your left tower is under attack.
Might as well.
Gamehunter5 has arrived.
Enemies incoming. I'm returning to base.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower
Yeah,
is under attack.
unfortunate. I'm not sure what happened in mid. Well, it's just the gank, I guess, but unfortunate. Did you know they were gonna cancel Hades with heal at 1 kill? I didn't know, but I was trying to stop him from doing it. Like, did they actually cancel out the ability itself? Did it go back on cooldown? Like, I was trying to make sure he wasn't healing in time. I didn't really want to let him heal because I saw it was a big wave. And if he ever walked up with half HP as Hades, like, no matter what, I should win that trade. So, I was trying to delay the heal as long as possible. And if he was low enough, then I can always just go for the kill, but I think I was lucky in that situation that I did enough damage to... Yeah, make sure that nothing was gonna happen for him.
An enemy has been slain.
It's getting a little bit tanky now.
You have slain an enemy.
Enemy missing.
It's kind of a late ult. Kami.
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
Be careful, Rose.
Oh, the animation went off, but it didn't get the heal. I see. Yeah, it might be bugged then. That would be unfortunate if that was the case.
Enemy missing left. Wherever there are gods in need, I'll be there. Fight.
An enemy has been slain.
Fear
Your left tower is under attack.
Pretty decent warm-up game. His hands are still cold as fuck. It's so chilly. Starting to feel the winter keep creeping up out here. I need Amma to be banned. She's definitely one of the gods right now I don't want to deal with in solo. Like, I'd rather just have her banned. And if she's open, I feel like I need to pick her. Because she's so hard to deal with. Though I guess you can always bring out the Bellona. Bellona is unironically one of the few gods that actually kind of feel good against her right now. How about you play her? I already told you, like, hey, I'm down to play her. You just fucking pick it. Just fucking pick it. I just mean in ranked. In ranked, I don't want to play her. The thing is, you see the same thing with Bacchus and, like, sometimes Odin. The reason why I don't really pick Bacchus and Odin much in ranked is because they're much harder to carry with. With Amma, it's not that hard. She kills shit so easily, while still being super tanky. Bacchus and Odin generally do not. Bacchus can, but, like, that's more like in a team fight situation. Like, he doesn't kill someone fast. Unless you get a full combo on them, but it's not really the most reliable thing if you're against, like, a really good player or someone with high mobility. Amma will just chase them down and kill them anyway. Amma is kind of in her own league at the moment in that. Like, she doesn't have any downside. Amma does everything well. And why the hell didn't Q me? I probably missed the Q now, damn it. Did I miss the Q? Nika's streaming, right? Okay, still in Q. Okay. I don't know why my thing didn't go off. So annoying. She pretty much has, like, no downside, it feels like. She is the whole package. She's a teamfight monster, she's a great laner, she's high mobility, she's got high damage. She's great objective power, like damage as well. She's had everything. She literally has everything in her kit. One of the issues with Smite 1 Amma was that her early game was really weak. That's not the case for Smite 2. You run Death Toll on her, and suddenly her kit is just super good for just sustaining early with her attack chain, as well as just killing creeps really fast with her too. Her buff clear is insane as well. Like, she literally has no downside. She's super safe. And while you can, like, Hercules has obviously been a problem for since he came out. Like, he's very strong, but Hercules doesn't have, like, he has downsides, you know. Like, he doesn't have a high mobility. You can definitely lock him down and kill him if you get the chance to. He's got very high damage and turnaround potential, but, you know, that's kind of all he's got going for him late game. Like, tankiness as well as, like, turnaround potential. He's got some CC and some initiation stuff, but I wouldn't really say that plays to his strengths. As, you know, someone like Amma does with her high damage output and, like, big teamfight power. Hercules is definitely annoying and a menace, but I would say that's, like, in a lesser good way than Amma. I'm still trying to kind of, like, gauge where Hercules is because he keeps getting nerfed. He's just got another big nerf in the last patch that came out last night. So I don't actually know. I haven't really played him since the second nerf, because the first one was pretty bad for him, especially his early game. What is this? Why am I not getting the role priority? Hi-Res. Can I get my solo? Thank you. I'm not getting it. Oh well. Time to try Kenanos, I guess. See how he feels now. But yeah, Hercules, the 2 seconds extra on both his 1 and 2 from 12 seconds to 14 seconds really hurts him early game. He's got kind of a terrible laning now. Like, you really gotta make sure that you use your 1 and 2 on the wave, otherwise you're not clearing it. And if you use it on the wave, that gives your opponent a chance to super fight you. If you get someone like Mordred or Amma or anything that can fight pretty well early, you're gonna struggle. Hercules kinda has to give up the laning against a lot of matchups now. That being said, he's still an absolute monster going into mid game and late game, just because when you can start using your abilities with more cooldown on the table, like you maybe have breastplate or like purification or something like that gives you some more cooldown, and your abilities maybe like 10 seconds or 8 seconds again, then he feels great again. It's just really early game is super rough. Are we dodging here? Is that the play? Calipo? Oh well, unfortunate. I think just gotta go Golden Blade. I tried it on Hurt, but it also feels kind of rough. But I think you might be right now. I actually might have to try it myself, now that his abilities are so that bad. I just don't like having it for later. I don't think Golden Blade really helps him out that much going into mid game. I still kind of prefer the Mystical Mel option, because you want to be a tanky monster. But I'll have to try it. Dude, cue me. Dude, okay, the queuing is really bugged this patch. Pressing once isn't enough. But yeah, I definitely get you. Because now the next nerf was nerfing the damage on his abilities, right? I don't remember. Was this patch last night or is it coming? I forgot now. But they nerfed his damage again. So now they do even less damage too. Believe it's live? Okay. I definitely am not a huge fan of the cooldown nerfs that they do. It's the same thing with Bacchus. In that same patch, they upped the cooldown on Bacchus, which is still not the problem. The problem is he's gonna jump someone and one-shot them. Well, this is 15 seconds now or something, right? No, what is it? It's the jump that's 15 seconds. I'm not a huge fan of just upping cooldowns. Like, nerf the damage then. Because the gods overall are just gonna feel much worse if you can never use their abilities. And Bacchus just has too much base damage. He's got way too much base damage for no reason. I mean, they did just kind of give him a new ability in a sense on his one, being able to essentially have the Polynomicon effect without nerfing any of his other damage. So of course he's gonna do way too much damage. They just haven't really dealt with it. I feel like they're kind of just doing the same thing to Hercules now. Even though they did kind of just nerf his damage, so I guess I have to take that back. Yeah, they nerfed his passive as well. He might be fine now. Guess we'll have to see. I think either way, with a kid like Herx, he's probably going to be good either way in current Smite 2. Excuse me. Just because of the low mobility mages and stuff like that currently. Someone with like Amma will keep having value. Hercules will get less and less value once mages, or mages with escape abilities will start getting added. Not to mention more Herc counters will eventually also just kind of get added. Some more stuff with anti-healing and shit like that. Dude, I missed the queue, didn't I? Are they in game now? Yeah, they are. Wait, what the fuck? I'm looking at Nika's stream. It looks like they're in game, but might be glitched. Damn it, man. I keep missing the queue because the queue keeps rejecting me. Guess I'll have to just hope that there is gonna be another queue. I do wonder how people feel about Odin now. He's gotten so many shadow nerfs at this point. They nerfed the stun, right, on this one. Yeah. Not by much. I mean, are you gonna really feel like 0.1? A 0.1 difference? I'm not sure, but that's such a weird nerf too. Oh, this looks great. 2 Odins. Kind of understands to me, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I think it's just bugged, I guess. It's gotta be just bugged. I just hope the queue won't be too long. Like, there's only really one positive with the queues being longer, and it simply means that it's trying to find a better game, but in one of these cases, like, what is it gonna do? I believe it's gonna keep scaling things down, right, after a certain amount of time. So, like, right now it's looking for something in my ELO range, or SR range, and then after that, it's gonna just, after a certain time, it's gonna go down, look for something in, like, lower SR, something like that. I'm not too sure. I haven't read up on how the new system works. I do want to play more Mordred, though. I kind of been shelving the Mordred a bit, because I do want to play it. I am not burned out on him. I still want to play him, but he's just not always that good, unfortunately. Pop, damn it. It's the longest queue I've had. Pretty much ever in the normal queue. And it happens when I decide to stream. Classic. That's fine. I'll wait. I'll just pop on, watch Nika stream while waiting, I guess. Watching a stream while streaming, like a professional. I really don't need him to add Vamana though. I'm not sure I'll play anything else. Obviously will. I like variety, but still. Also, isn't Panatom playing in NA usually? Why was he in my game? Oh, he's also in Q. I just checked his stream too. Damn. He's on a 9 minutes. I guess his Q also screwed him over. Interesting. And we just got a match now. Alright. I hope I'm not against him, because I think I'm gonna lose if I am. It's probably just gonna clap my jungler. It's the worst as a solo laner, I feel like, being against a good jungler. Alright. Because you're just kind of sitting there in solo, potentially winning your lane, or not. And you're just watching the world burn over there. Because your jungler might not be on the same level as the enemy jungler. Hercules. Okay. That will give me the chance to play some Mordred as well. Because I do actually think this is in Mordred's favor, for the most part. You wait for Hercules to use his abilities because they're long as shit, and you just go on him. He no longer has anything to do against you. Because Mordred doesn't really need to use his abilities in the wave, because he's got so many to use. You get a lot of shit just to throw out the wave, where Hercules only has 2 things. That being said, if you do end up running the Golden Blade, then it won't take too long for him to have other ways of clearing the wave, but even so. They have Neath Jing as well. Oh. This might be really good for me, actually. Depends on what they pick here. Am I expecting that to be a Neath mid? Or, like, Jing mid? Because if they pick another physical, I'm gonna have the greatest time as Mordred. I will never buy Magic Protection against just a Umoja. I might go Spirit Robe, though. Just because Spirit Robe is that good. Oh yeah. I'm ready. Would Golden Blade be worth it on Mordred, I'm thinking? I mean, you don't need it, I guess that's probably the main thing. It's also a lot more ability-based. Could be interesting to try it, though. It's so cheap. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so good. It's incredibly cheap. Dude, that's a level 10 Ymir? Damn. Reassuring. I think we have more Radiance, so that's why we win. Everyone knows rank 10s are better. It was the same in Smite 1. You saw that one casual player with 50 Nuwa stars? You know you win. 100%. He goes all the time. Yeah. Klino is one of those guys, right? He's gonna watch what I'm doing the whole time. I'm kind of a ghoster as well, to be honest. But I think everyone in EU needs to be if you want to get into the good games. Because you gotta ghost Nika. Obviously not actually, you know. You just Q snipe, you don't ghost. We all want to get some good games in EU, but it's hard to find one outside of Nika streaming and giving us a good queue. Today, though, I actually didn't intend to enter the Nika queue. We just accidentally, I guess, started around the same time in terms of streaming, and we ended up in the same game anyway. That was not my intent today. Usually off stream I just do that, because I want to get into good games. But while I'm streaming, I don't want to sit and wait for, like, someone else to queue.
A not unwelcome sight.
Enemy missing. Cancel that.
Damn it. Exactly missed the last one. I'm kind of screwed up a bit there. Yeah, no, it's fine. I get you. I like Cleano. He's a cool guy. And he's fun to play against. Oh, I agree with you. I'm also just joking. Ah, damn it. I could have been some good poke if I hit my dash there.
Your left tower is under attack. Slain an enemy. Run! Double kill. I sense your fear.
Is it red out of sync? It is. Okay.
Take this jungle buff.
Bring rip to a god. Bring the pain.
No! I'm bad. I suck. That shouldn't have happened. I got greedy. I should have just backed. I know he had just backed, meaning he had a lot more items to utilize than me. Tragic. I might start with a Phoenix. I don't want to do that, actually. No, Mystical Mode feels too good on Mordred to start with.
Is under attack.
Because now I truly don't have to use my abilities in the wave. Now I can just group them up by hitting him instead. Use Mystical Mode to my advantage.
Enemy missing right. Cancel that.
Oh, actually, wait.
Enemy ultimate incoming! Ultimate
Bring it on.
Coming left. Enemies are coming left.
Fear. An enemy. An ally has been slain.
I want it back. I really want to just get Mystical Mail here.
Killing spree.
But I also don't want to get zoned, so I'm just gonna make sure that I am not getting zoned.
nice job!
Gotta be careful backing when the Minotaur is there, because that thing destroys the waves completely. It is insane. Here we go. It's gonna feel much better having some cooldown as well. Stop.
Enemy missing.
Enemy missing right.
On my way.
Thanks.
That left me.
An ally has been slain. I sense your fear.
Enemy ultimate down.
Enemy missing right.
They're awkward as fuck when you don't get the dash up in time, jump right in front of people. It's so weird.
An enemy has been slain. I will find you now. Has been slain.
Not bad for a sorter.
Your right tower is under attack. Surprisingly capable.
Thanks.
I think good to see you, man. I saw you in the other game. You back, or are you just playing some games for fun? How are things looking, man? You feeling good?
I sense your fear. Enemy missing right.
Gank left on my way.
Bring it on.
Help. Ultimate is ready.
Unstoppable.
Enemy missing left. Be careful in the jungle.
On my way. Follow me.
No, I didn't get it.
No time for sympathy. Not here, not ever.
I will find you now. Slain an enemy.
Playing a game, fair enough. Bit better. Probably won't be actual thing for a while. Yeah, no worries, man. Focus on your life. That's good. I can only see that as a positive. It's important to know where priorities lie. It's damn creeps. I can't hit anything.
Enemy ultimate down.
Attack the Gold Fury.
I was lucky I could find a spot where they couldn't go in front of me. Priority for thing is Minecraft. I mean, it's a pretty good priority, I'm not gonna lie. It's a nice one. Imagine it being, you know, My Little Pony Island, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong, you can like what you like, right? But I think Minecraft is a pretty healthy one, all things considered. Could also be drugs, right? Just take the wins. Let it be Minecraft. Damn it. I should have just sundered. I thought I could get it in time. Sorry, Klino. It's not really much to do against a fit, basically world champion level Loki right now. Panatom just kind of running the game at the moment. Smite is a drug, I agree with you. And not necessarily a healthy one. For me, at least. I'm not gonna lie, there are definitely times where I'm like, if I wasn't playing Smite right now, I would have a much better time. Like, mentally. But here we are. I do love Smite. That's also the problem, right? I have a lot of history with Smite. Like, my greatest moment in my life arguably comes from Smite. So, it's hard to beat the Pentacle moment, you know? Even though I was an awkward, super antisocial guy at the time. Which definitely created some weird memories for me at the launch tournament. Just looking back on it. Ow. You're so big! Go away! Klino! There is such a thing as too big. Hercules is actually just too big. What the fuck? I pressed my ult and you guys heard it too, right? It just didn't go off. What the fuck was that? Yo, someone clip that? What the fuck just went wrong? I need to see that again. Why did my ult go off? I... honestly? No, not that. With Herc's constant CC, I probably will do Spirit Rope. Does it have a cooldown? No, it doesn't. there's still a lot of bugs. Yeah, there's still a lot of bugs. Right now, I don't think there's anything game breaking or something like that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's gonna be bugs. Oh, the weight. If Anubis doesn't catch this Neath, I'm running her down. No, he caught him. Also, Lekane, why are you asking me about scrims? Unless you're joking about the stream with this being a big queue. In that case, it's going well. But, oh, Sing wanted to know. It's going fine, yeah. Oh, I see. Sing asked earlier. Yeah, but I would say it's going fine. Obviously, things could be better, right? But I think it's going fine. Could be worse, could be better, yeah. Still think there's a lot to learn. A lot of shit to figure out. Get your wave, man. Unbelievable, Clino. Oh, the heal, no, it saved the man. Yamoja, why? Alright, I think it's time to get some kind of damage though. I can afford it in this game as well, having no need to go for too much. Maybe I just avoid shield actually, yeah. Just avoid shield. It was buffed as well, it gives 5 more power now, right? Instead of 15. That's nice. Made the clip, don't know where it went. Oh no, where's Bengus? I should be able to find it. Thank you. I'll see if I can find it right now actually. Let's see. Clips. Okay. I need to shape up here. I'm kind of I'm trolling a bit because Clino's throwing me off using his running around only chasing me strategy. I need to wake up. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Penitom is gonna kill their whole team by himself at this point, but even so.
Your middle tower is under attack.
That did no damage to me. Cleano, come back!
You have slain an enemy.
I'll defend. The day of reckoning is at hand.
Yeah, they got pulled in general for... I think ADC and jungle are the worst, for sure. She wanted that tower. All mages are viable ADCs. I think a lot of people would disagree with you, Bengus. Most of the ADCs, at least in the competitive scene, would hate you for saying that. That might track you down. I think the only one who is potentially somewhat viable as an ADC could maybe be the Anubis, which we've seen a few times, but the Anubis is just, it's unreliable, especially in the ADC role. Like, it's either gonna do really well or really bad. That's just how Anubis works. I think Cleano is done with this game. They might have F7 warriors, which seems to be the case. Because they definitely should have surrendered a while ago. Give me here, you walled me off. You absolute cheesecake. If they had a Wheelers or Kwang, I'm definitely running my life just to... Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of junglers... I think the next one is going to be Thor, right? If I had to guess, just based on what they showed us so far. And I don't really know who else they could. Actually, let me watch this clip real fast. Well, what the fuck is this? I guess I'll mid. Sure, whatever. I have distortion as well, so do have a main solo. Oh, Thanos silenced me out of my ult. Even okay, that's what happened. So the Thanos silence essentially. I still feel like that. I don't know. That I never had that happen as Mojit before. The Thanos cancelled my animation on the ultimate. That must have been really weird and like super on the edge to even happen. Because like it's a CC immune ult, so I feel like once you press the ability, you should never longer be able to be interrupted. So weird. Well, Hades?
Kukulkan.
I'll do Kukulkan. My second most played god in Smite 2. The snake. Why is he my most played god? I don't know. I'm not sure, to be honest. I just played him a decent amount in some casual games. He's kind of like my, if I ever get mid, I like playing Kukulkan. So I guess in every game that I think I've gotten mid, I probably played Kukulkan. I think Hekate is decently fun as well, but I think my main problem with Hekate is if you don't have a team with you, she's harder to pull off. Kukulkan can take care of himself. Hekate does not feel the same way. In my head, at least. Like, the 3 becomes somewhat useless unless something goes on you. And it's just, it can be really awkward playing Hekate sometimes. So I just tend to like Kukulkan more when I solo queue. In a team setting, sure. I'll play Hekate. They don't have an actual support. Is that a Hades support? It is. Okay. Interesting. Where did Penitom go? Did he miss the queue? Oh no, he did. Shit. Oh, that sucks. Uh, what do you mean build into that? I like Beats is definitely good, but I'm dead anyway. I think. Is this a Blink game? Maybe. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it.
Slowly but surely.
I actually recognize this Bacchus. Last time he was in one of my games, he completely trolled. And he just went in and died to every tower, to the enemy team. We'll see if he does the same thing. This game might be a lost cause from the beginning, if that's the case. Warriors axe on Mordred, that's interesting. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's as good either as Bluestone. Mordred is just one of those really good ability spammers when it comes to boxing. Bluestone, you just get so much value out of it. But I do think Warriors is fine as well.
slain.
Rough.
Down.
Has been slain.
Nice little Loki gang there. No, I wasn't running from my own Loki. I was just didn't want to get too close to the Anubis either. I mean, there's a chance that I instinctively heard the Loki and was like, oh shit, but then realized quickly it was my own Loki. I'm not sure. Well, now it's 5, so now I definitely do not want to do that.
Enemy missing middle. Be careful left.
Just show him my presence. Tell him to be careful.
I need
Enemy missing middle.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the second relic stuff. Like, a lot of people really do want it.
Okay, some other time. Slow down. Thanks. Nice job.
killing spree. Jungle power.
Behind us.
On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Kinda sucks that I had to blink that. Well, probably actually didn't have to. I might have played that really stupid. I probably could have just dashed away. But I also didn't want to take any risks. I don't want to die early on Kukulkan here. You know, in game BC. It should be on.
Gold fury.
Yeah, mine is on. So if you're talking, then I'm not sure if it's on your side. If it's on my side, it's just bugged, I guess. Should be on.
No one.
An enemy has been slain.
Down.
Missed the wave. Great.
Savor these moments.
Enemies incoming right.
An ally has been slain.
Down.
I don't know, Bengus. What do you call Echo Kulkin? Well, I'm just dead.
Some other time.
I kinda screwed that one up as well. I used my 2 kinda stupidly there. And my ult was cancelled. But at least that baited out the Anubis Aegis, but Hades there was unfortunate. I also just don't do any damage right now. Which is not great.
Your middle tower is under attack. Enemy missing middle.
If Loki wanted this red buff, he could take it.
Serpent swiftness.
Cancel.
Serpent swiftness. Nice job.
Gank right lane. Enemy ultimate down.
No, I ran into it, man. I'm sad. At least I got the NATO off. Dude, no! You didn't swap! Valerian! Go to the Anubis! Why did you swap to the speed buff? Oh no, he's not gonna die! Oh! Oh, nice. You got him. Well done, Bacchus. Dude, that stressed me out. Damn, Salt's getting pretty big. I am stupid and I'm getting a late Transcendence. It's just too good on Kukulkan. Wanted the speed? Did you even get the speed too? I think they got the speed as well. They're probably on gold here. Can I intercept this? Dude, I suck. My ult did not do enough damage. I did not expect that.
Your left tower is under attack.
Man, I should have just ran. Sol was there. Well, if we can get him, that's fine. That's just bad by me, honestly. I'll take it. We baited them long enough. Maybe Anubis overstays as well. That's an ult down. Good jump. Abilities are hitting. It's looking clean, boys. Get him. Nice job, boys. Worth. All me.
Has been slain.
Alright, good job. I'll just push mid.
Left enemy. Sorry. Double kill. You
Yeah, Sol really wanted me. Yeah, I just played that bad, honestly. I should have had gold. It was in my hands. It literally was. It was leeched to me. It wasn't even up to them. Whatever. I'll take my mid tower as a reward instead. I mean, another good thing here is also Distortion is doing really well in the ammo over in solo. Like, he already has tower. Like, we're just kind of leaving him alone right now, forcing Thana away from that. That's very good for us, too. Like, I'll be there for late game either way, as Kukulkan. So, even if I die, it's not really a big deal. And I am right now playing this kind of bad.
Enemy missing middle.
An enemy has been slain.
Enemies incoming right.
Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Retreat right. Middle tower. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Serpent swiftness.
I'll rotate just in case, but I'm not really seeing anything big happening here. Never mind.
Rampage. Slain an enemy. An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack. Attack right tower. Thanks.
Yes.
Honestly, we kind of should.
Your left tower is under attack. Destroyed a right.
Now we can do gold.
The pyromancer has arrived.
It's a good call from Bacchus there. We definitely should have just gotten the tower instantly, because we had a wave coming in.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Feel my strength.
Defend middle lane.
Well, I got destroyed. I didn't even realize how much Anubis just wrecked me. I'm playing sloppy this game. I also do not know what the fuck I am building, but I think I need to go Divine Ruin just for the Anubis, just to make sure. We don't really have anyone else who can just do it. And I can always just easily apply it by always tornadoing where he is, so even if I die, at least I'm applying Divine Ruin for him for a while.
Your left tower is under attack. What a lightweight.
Modred's not having a good time.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Swiftness.
Unstoppable. You rock. Gank right lane. Double kill. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Right tower. Your middle tower is under attack.
Feel my strength.
Did you all cut their hair and miss the rest? I hit the Anubis.
Swiftness.
Your middle tower is under attack. Killing spree. Attack fire giant.
Serpent swiftness.
Destroyed the fire giant. Your middle tower is under attack.
Not really a big chance to survive there. Tragic, my ult missed the last second, but... Alright. Not hearing you? Oh, that's just because it's like, it's push to talk. That's why, because when I'm streaming, I'm constantly talking. I don't want that to go through the system, you know? But I do have it on. I just didn't. If no one else talks, I usually don't talk. If someone starts talking, I start talking. Oh, you guys were talking? Yeah, I guess it was glitched then. Weird. It worked yesterday, so I don't know why it wouldn't. Do it now. Yeah, because it should just be on. But maybe it's glitched and I would have to restart my game or something. Fair enough, Illyrian. Yeah, I'm guessing it's just glitched then. It's been some pretty good games today overall. I've been lucky with teams too. I would say the first two games here, I could definitely have played slightly better. I'll try and turn it on and off, though I guess that probably doesn't do anything. Let's see if that works. Because it worked just fine yesterday when I was in one of Nika's games. Was talking with Calvin, Nika, and some others. It's pretty active yesterday. Obviously, it was off stream, so. Oh, okay. So it's a party problem. Interesting. That's very specific. It's an interesting bug. Getting pretty close to Demigod at this point. I'm glad we actually get SR again, because it's been a long fucking time since I got any SR from playing ranked. Well, anyone in EU, really. How much SR I get for a win now? I've gotten, I can check on tracker. I got 56 for most of them, but then 60 for one of them. So, 56 seems to be the normal one for me. So you can actually rise now. So, I'm at 48 now. I imagine almost everyone on this list right now are going to be NA. I see Drake is there. He's EU. Ragnar is EU. Alfie? We do have an Alfie. Is this the right one? I'm not sure. Calipo, Streak. Okay, there's a decent amount of people up here as well, but most of them are just NA right now. Which does make a lot of sense considering the EU Elite queue was kind of dead, so it was hard for EU people to rise for a little while. Speaking of Drake. Dude, I'm just not getting solo. Can I get solo? Yeah. Thank you. Very nice. Sav is there. Isn't Sav NA though? Sav plays EU because of Nika sometimes, but isn't Sav NA? I'm pretty sure he's NA. He does queue EU though, a lot of the time. His first two picks also top pick now. I am not sure. I mean, just looking at this, that would be the case, I think. But you don't get role priority still, which is still weird. Role priority still seems to be weird and bugged. How is Smite 2? I like Smite 2 a lot, but it does have its issues. It is flawed, but it is very fun. I like it more than Smite 1 in terms of gameplay feel at this point. I really do. A lot of people are thinking it's crazy, but I don't know, man. I think Smite 2, like, don't get me wrong, the worst case of Smite 2, which at the moment in my head is Onher. Onher does not feel good. He does not feel like an upgrade from Smite 1, but someone like Mordred, like the new gods, Hecate, I think even Hercules as a new example, I think Hercules in Smite 2 feels better than Hercules in Smite 1. Absolutely. 100%. Get your main role more often now. Yeah, but I just feel like that should be a priority in ranked, right? The top 2 should always get their main role. But sometimes that's not the case. Let's just do ammo. I'm sorry, I'm boring. But right now, I have a hard time just not picking it because it's kind of stupid. And I'm into Hercules, which is something also that's kind of stupid. So I want to pick something stupid into that. I need to counter this stupid. My 2 does not attract new people at the moment. Yeah, it doesn't. But that's also kind of because they're not marketing it. They're just kind of working on it right now. What I hope is, and what I would expect someone to do with an alpha, is that once it's going to be an open beta or something like that, they should market it a bit more, you know? We'll see what happens when that time comes. Alright, this is looking like a pretty overall stacked game. I do not know who my Jingwei is, though. And I saw the my support as well before in one of the games. And they might struggle. We'll see. I hope the best for them. I hope the best for them. But I wouldn't be surprised, considering both Drake and Calpo are pretty high on the list on SR right now, that it might be, you know, taking people that are slightly lower than the rest of us to make it even. I should have done a different build this time. I actually kind of want to try some different builds on ammo instead of just running Death Toll every time. Even though I do think Death Toll is the one I prefer the most. I suppose I still could. Still, running a squishy armor build into a Hercules might not be the best idea. Unless I'm planning not to fight at all. Best guys might be an armor Fenrir Baron.
Minions have spawned.
I'm not too sure at the moment, considering the constant nerfs and buffs and all that stuff, but like I still think Bacchus is very high. Like I still think Odin in a team setting is very, very high. I'm not sure. Hekate is still very good in a team setting. I think she's less good in something like ranked, because she kind of needs a team. But, yeah. No, I just missed it. Damn it, man. An absolute tragedy, that's what this is. Also, interesting. I would have thought it were Hercules I was against. Most gods still not out. Yeah, there's only like 30 something gods. Like 28, something like that? 27? There's still barely any gods in the game. That's the main issue with Smite 2. A lot of it might feel better, but there's still barely any gods in the game. I'm still suffering from a lack of a mana. And I suck. Yeah, I just focused the wave. This was silly. I have to wait to sustain up. little closer than I would have liked. But I survived. All is good. Like, that's pretty much what I should have done the whole time. Clear the wave fast, get control. And then fight. Rather than looking for the fight and then looking for the wave, because that's just stupid. And also missing, I guess, was the big problem. I just missed my one, or my two.
An ally has been slain. Your middle
Weird lag that I had when I ulted there was very strange.
has been slain.
Anytime, friend. Stand together.
He did a yoink, but I also don't think I would have managed to kill him. So, it was a good yoink, and I would much rather, I can tell you, I would much rather have the Susano fed than Amma right now. Because we need it. Like, I'll be there no matter what when we hit mid-game. I just need a few more levels and, like, 2 items, and I'm good. Susano cannot fall behind.
Wherever there are gods in me,
Sure.
I'll be there.
Not really much to do there.
Enemies in left lane.
An ally has been slain.
It's a Fenrir ult as well. A lot of people over here, it seems. Okay, I'm back in. Honestly, kind of rude. There's a little Baron pot in the shop. Not if you are on the enemy team, no. There might still be a bug that happens sometimes, I'm not sure, but I would expect them to have fixed that bug by now. It was an issue in the last patch, but
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
you want to actually fight this? Oh. That was no calling from mid Calipo, man. Well, this is not going well. Is it? Yeah, the duo was getting kind of clapped, as I kind of would have expected. Well, Hercules is the jungler, and Sol is the mid.
Is under attack. Bring it on.
Some really big pickups for us.
Retreat. Yes.
Your right tower is under attack.
Yeah, Catapult kind of screwed me here, man. In more ways than one. You gonna do it or not? Dude, Baron is still just an annoying piece of shit.
Enemy missing.
He still has super low cooldowns, he just constantly throws out the 3.
An enemy has been slain.
Enemies in left lane.
Now that's the support. I don't want him here. I can tell you that much. Are you gonna sit in the jungle here? No? Okay. Surprising. He's in mid, maybe? It's gonna be a little while until I can actually deal with Baron at this point. He's just too tanky and he's too good at closing the distance between us. Or not closing, but...
Enemies in left lane.
Go away, dude! I'm trying to play the game! I'm trying to deal with this little shitty dead guy, but I'm not allowed to. Actually, no fun allowed right here. Okay, dude. I'm going home. Screw this.
Enemy spotted.
I'm getting wards.
Interesting trinket.
I'm getting real tired of your shit, Vice. Alright? Can you fuck off? I didn't know you were married to Baron. At some point you gotta learn, you know, they gotta learn to fly. Do, you know, and do shit by themselves.
My radiance covers this land.
Best I can do is force his ult for now.
Retreat. Defend the gold fury. Gold fury. Defend.
Enemy team has destroyed the gold fury.
We're not looking to fight that? No, we're not.
An slain.
Unbelievable. I played that so bad. I'm definitely dead. Yeah. That was a terrible dash. And then they just body blocked me really well. Dude, I don't actually know what to build on armor into a Baron. It's such a weird matchup because you really, really, really need anti-healing. But if I go anti-healing, the rest of my build is fucked. Awkward. Really, really, really awkward. Alright. Fuck it.
It's time to turn this.
This could be good if they stay around.
Killing spree. Shut down. An ally has been slain.
Yeah.
Your right tower is under attack.
Damn it. And Armor's dash also has a small delay on it, so getting out of the 2 is a lot harder to do as well. It's too easy for him to heal off me.
Slain an enemy.
It's a good gank. Might be able to get tower for this as well. Well, at this point I need to get tower, because they're getting a tower. Oh yeah, no, that's good to see, man.
Destroyed a left enemy tower.
On my way. Incoming.
An ally has been slain.
They're gonna have 5 in mid. Oh, okay, dude. This fucking Fenrir support's gonna solo me. Fenrir, dude, he's 2 levels down too. If I don't have my ult, I'm actually just dead to him. Wild. Well, I guess it wasn't solo kill necessarily. Baron did help out in the beginning, but... Dude, that's insane. People should always ban Fenrir. This god's not okay.
The enemy team has destroyed the fire giant.
I mean, he's also pretty fat. That's also obviously a thing. Dude, why would you do... Dude, he's doing way too much damage. By not having any more than 25 strength. What the fuck? Hyris? What the fuck is that? Is that a 764 Brutalize? No, that's No, it's an 800! Oh, of course. My bad.
Be careful.
Sure.
Be careful. On my way.
My ult also has an atrociously long cooldown.
An enemy. An enemy has been slain. Double kill.
That was awesome.
Killing spree.
On my way.
Okay, dude. Of course he... I'm cooked. Of course Fenrir shows up. And he obviously has an ult. I can't really blame the Jingwei either. Like, Jingwei is in a game she's not supposed to be in. This is one of the issues with the low player numbers at the moment. Jingwei is probably not used to dealing with players on this skill level. Well, it's probably a combination of that and then just a Fenrir being Fenrir. One of the few things that Jingwei is kind of bad against is that... Well, never mind. I think it's just him. Oh boy.
Double kill.
Awesome.
Rampage.
It's time to turn this battle in
Oh, okay, dude. Yeah, okay. I think it's Jover. Dude, I'm level 16 as well. Into a level 20 Solace. Yeah, it's cooked. I think the dueling got a little too out of control. Like Fenrir ganking me, what, 3 times less than, like, I don't know, in less than 2 minutes is not should never happen. Then something is wrong, and that's just because the dueling wasn't a problem anymore. Fenrir could just sit on me. Unfortunate. Alright. I should have time for one more game at least. Before I gotta go. Dude, the joining queue is struggling. I think in this game though, I definitely should have ran the intelligence build on Amma. I don't think the auto attack build is as good because I can't stick to any of the targets with a Baron around. The auto attack is great into Saul. It's fine into Hercules as well. But with Baron on peel duty, I'm screwed. I'm never sticking to anything. Saul feels good. I mean, Saul feels good, yeah, when no one is on you still. I still think Saul, like any ADC, you know, feels good if you're not being attacked. Saul's main problem is the fact that he's very easy to kill. Let's see if I can swap here. If not, I'm fine with ADC, I guess. Yeah, what was the Saul buff again? What did they do to him? I forgot. No, I'll just take Saul then, Pain. That's fine. I'll ADC. Like, my ADC isn't great either. I barely played it, but I'm confident enough in my skills on an ADC, if that makes any sense. I'll do it. I mean, it's gonna be against Valerian, though, who is much more practiced, so I might have to just sit back, but... This time Fenrir is banned, so I should have an easier time. Oh, is the Baron still bugged? What is the bug? Like it double hits on the 2, right? Something like that. I'll just do Jing, I guess. I have seen the Baron bug, at least one of them, assuming it's the same one we're talking about. Double damage on his abilities once you have passive on? Yeah, that sucks. He should just be removed from the game then. I don't know why he's not. That seems like something that should be fixed. Fast. That might have been why my lane was so hard too, because I feel like his abilities did way more damage to me than I would have expected. Maybe that's why. I didn't realize that he was doing double damage if he was. Because generally Baron does not, like, he doesn't pose a big threat until his ult comes online, and a few more items, I think. But he definitely felt like he was a problem in the early game for me. Yeah, they also buffed Kerenos quite a bit. Yeah, so they just made his scale better with strength. That makes sense, I suppose. Yeah, she could definitely be pretty good. I still don't think it's that big of a, like, it was obviously a big buff for her, but the fact that Sol still struggles surviving, I don't think she's still Jingwei level, but I do think it's a good buff. She might be better than like on her and well, I was about to say Kunonos, but I don't know about that either, to be honest. He might be really good now. Well, this is kind of a beats game, I think. If we, what do you mean, man?
Power.
People are not that bad, right? I know some of these people. At least one of them. I'm sure they'll put up a fight, alright? Also, I'm very surprised that it was a first pick Kunonos and it wasn't on Valerian. So, I guess that's good for me. So I don't have to deal with a good ADC player right now, at least from what I know. I assume the ADC builds are still the same. Do you have any ADC mains?
On my way. Minions have spawned.
Yo, test. Nope. It is my comms. Okay. Test. Yeah, it doesn't work. I guess it's my comms. I'll probably have to restart my game to fix it. Tragic. I'll try and fix it for next time, I guess. I don't know why it is glitched.
On my way.
Have fun. Enemy missing middle.
Alright, now I just let the wave come to me.
Take this jungle buff.
Yeah, thought as much, Mr. Ares.
Oh, hey, fam. Enemy middle.
Good poke overall. Unfortunately, the jungler showed up.
Enemies in right lane.
It's gotta be careful. All clear is not better here. There's something Cutterless does have. It's good clear. It's tough.
On my way.
Away we go. Ultimate is down.
Has been slain.
I'll be there.
Ultimate is down.
Oh, that did not last long enough. Well, that did not last as long as I thought it would on the taunt. That's my bad. Still looking like an alright fight though. Not a single assist though. Man, wave is gonna deny me here.
Enemy spotted.
These damn Warhorn minions.
Ultimate is down.
Going up. Help middle lane.
Be right back.
Enemy missing right. Away we go.
Like, what do you actually build? I legitimately do not know. You still do Xe, I'm guessing, so I'll just do that for now.
On my way.
An ally has been slain.
It's a great Ronald. Dude, I suck at following up on that. That's crazy.
Out of mana.
I'll just fall back, actually.
Out of mana. Enemy ultimate incoming.
Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
Fail.
Attack the gold rock.
One of the things with ADC for me right now is that I don't know how much damage I can do. I don't have all the like the small intricacy knowledge that I need to play it on like a higher level. I'm gonna say I'm pretty casual ADC right now. I played way more mid than I have in the ADC right now. How did I miss?
An ally has been slain.
Be careful, right?
No problem. Gate.
On my way.
I'll just back off, I guess. Get some farm.
Tower is under attack.
I'm too slow with my one on follow-ups. I need to get a little faster there. I'll grab some crit here.
An ally has been slain.
Feel free to let me know, guys, if there's something that is better to build at the moment, because I do not know.
An ally has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
Unnecessary poke. Oh, okay, dude. I had no idea that was the case, so that sucks. Time to buy some wards, I guess. Yeah, that was silly tower shot that I took. But I had a 2-level difference. I had to go for like some kind of aggressive play, but turns out his whole team was on their way, so it would have been fine otherwise. I wouldn't have lost anything necessarily. I would have just taken the gold camp, but
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Peekaboo, I see you. Enemy missing right.
Wherever there are gods in need, I'll be there.
there we go. Much better follow-up. I expected the
Attack the gold fury.
follow-up this time.
Out of mana.
The Pyromancer has arrived.
Ultimate is down.
Well, Matthew, you weren't here to tell me what to build. I blame you.
I'm on it.
It's kind of your fault if you think about it. Holy chain lightning damage? What the fuck? Dude. Holy shit.
Ultimate is ready.
Hyris, are we sure that's intended? I saw that they fixed the bug or some shit, that it was doing too little damage. Are we sure it's not doing too much damage now? What the fuck was that?
Wherever there are gods in need, I'll be there.
That thing soloed me, man. What in the actual fuck? It does have 3 items basically, but still, that's crazy.
Slain an enemy. Shut down.
On my way.
An ally has been slain.
Going up.
I'm gonna rotate for this. They're going a little deep here.
Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
This fucking creep's following me as well.
Slain an enemy. Double
The support fight down there. There we go. Now I have Titans. See, I didn't even need Titans. My ult doing 420 though? Did you see that? Or did I just see it wrong? Maybe it was fantasy.
Get right, on my way.
Ultimate is ready.
Set up an ambush here. Gay. Gay.
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been
Very good ages from Pinky there. Got like both my my 2 shots as well as my 1. So all my burst damage.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your middle tower
Should be able to burst this pretty fast. It's kind of scary though with Danza being around when we only 2. Or 3, I guess. With Odin here, I think we'll be fine.
Your left tower is under attack.
You're having a blast? I believe you. And I understand.
Your left
Like, what the fuck do I build now, man? Do I do Deathbringer now? It's a rhetorical question, by the way. I'm doing Deathbringer. What would a normal ADC build right now?
Your left tower is under attack.
That's too bad. Ultimate is ready.
People really build Dagger Frenzy last? Would you even do that on Jingwei instead of just building more crit? I'm actually gonna follow here. Well,
Enemies in the left lane. Be careful.
Enemy tower.
Okay.
Killing spree.
I'll just keep pushing, I guess. What's even happening? It's so split. The Kami's and the Titan. The Titan room. Things are happening. Dude, second normally. I do like it as well. I just haven't done it since people said it was bad. Then I was like, alright, guess I won't do it.
Destroyed a left enemy base. You have slain an enemy.
Damn it.
The beginning.
Smacked by the dash, and I missed too many autos. It's alright, I had to back anyway. I had to back anyway, it's fine. I got the Phoenix, I did my part. I think we're being a little greedy here, boys. We're all like, 1 HP. We're done, so.
Always nice to have. Quiet.
I just need more power. I guess Dagger will do that too. With the passive. Just do that. I assume the 40 power on Dagger with the passive will help with crits as well, right?
Destroyed the pyromancer.
On my way.
Destroyed the fire tower. Your right tower is under attack.
Ultimate is ready.
I'll look for a taunt for Athena here.
Your middle tower.
We got a good comp here. Dude, what in the fuck is this ZEUS damage? I'm trying not to get hit by the chain lightning because that shit just fucks me up. Alright, I mean, if there's anything I learned from this matchup, is that ZEUS is kind of fucking scary, dude. Yeah, GG's, guys. Well played. Chain lightning hurts. Goddamn. I've never been so scared of chain lightning in my life. Alright. I apologize, but that will be where I need to go. Rejoin? No, sir. I will not. I'm tempted to press this button, though. So I really appreciate you guys watching, as always. I'm glad I got to stream today. And, yeah. I had some good games. What do you mean, Dutch? You could have been here earlier, man. I've been streaming for 2 hours and 30 minutes, you know? Not the longest stream, but got some good games in. Dude, I need to stop saying rejoin. I pressed the button. Oh, I played Hecate? I didn't realize. Smite 2 works, guys. Alright, I don't want to press that button again. Yeah, I think it might be cooked. It's game like 10 times this game. Yeah, Kami was sitting on your ass. He was being a mean boy in this one. He made my life pretty easy because of it. Otherwise, my early game would have been tough against you. Alright. Let me find someone to raid here. A Jugador is going hard. I'll give it out to Jugador. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye.